Good evening and welcome to our second Fine Arts Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We would like to begin our program with a performance of a piece called Before the Rain, performed by the amazing Jamesville-DeWitt Concert Chorale. Our soloist this evening is Miss Carissa Charles.
Have you ever seen the tall grass as it blows in the wind before the rain, before the rain, before the rain, before the and the sparrow stops her singing as she waits to play her part in the game. Before the rain, before the rain, before the rain. Oh, and the moments that we wait for, as the clouds release their rain, the petals they all hold their breath now, before the magic once again.
While we're waiting for the students to be seated, that was the JD High School Concert Chorale under the direction of Mrs. Beth Quackenbush. If we could give her a round of applause. So good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Smith. I'm the superintendent of schools here at Jamesville-DeWitt. I can tell you that as superintendent of schools, the past 18 months has been a bit of a challenge. However, it is evenings like tonight that make those memories sort of fade away. And what an unbelievably great opportunity this is to enjoy the successes of some of our most notable graduates. So to all of our inductees and to families and friends, welcome back to Jamesville-DeWitt. It is so great to have you here. I want to reach out and make sure that extend a hearty thank you to Paul Rush and his committee for all of the work that they've done leading up to tonight. It is truly my honor to be here tonight to honor these 9 individuals and this one performance group in this class of inductees to the Hall of Fame. Certainly, congratulations to our honorees. You have certainly distinguished yourselves in your respective fields. Most clearly, your dedication and hard work has served you and your communities well. I'm really impressed, actually, by the wide range of expertise gathered in this class, and I look forward to hearing about the accomplishments and the words that those who are speaking for each of the inductees has to say. I'm excited about that. To each of our inductees, I say to you, clearly your first contribution to Jamesville-DeWitt was your stellar performance as either a student, an artist, or as an educator. And now you have the opportunity to contribute to Jamesville-DeWitt in a very different and I believe more powerful way. The mission statement of the Fine Arts Hall of Fame states in part that the inductee plaques on display will aspire to enlighten the Jamesville-DeWitt community about the outstanding fine arts heritage in the Jamesville-DeWitt School District. The Hall of Fame will strive to inspire current JD Fine Arts students and motivate others to join and follow them. And so now, following your contributions when you were directly involved with the school district, you're now contributing as a role model to thousands of Jamesville-DeWitt students who look at you and see what is possible to accomplish with commitment and hard work and dedication, and to the importance of volunteering your time to ensure that others have the same opportunities that you had. And so today, I offer to you a very public and heartfelt appreciation for the contributions that you've made to Jamesville-DeWitt. Your accomplishments will continue to positively influence our students for years to come. To me, that is tremendous. Thank you so, so much. For that, we thank you and congratulations.
Hello. Our first inductee is Deborah Barsha from the class of 1977 in music theater. If you're looking for Deborah Barsha, you will find her hopscotching across the boundaries of contemporary music. Gleefully defying classification, Barsha is that rare talent who sees show business itself as a medium. Singer, songwriter, actress, composer, pianist, raconteur, Barsha is just as comfortable fueling the grooves on a George Clinton album as she is writing an off-Broadway musical about pop art icon Keith Haring. With a career that includes television soundtracks, children's musicals, one-woman shows, and national tours with post-mod British pop star Thomas Dolby, Deborah manages to put the undeniable stamp of her own musical personality on the full spectrum of her work. Deborah won the Jonathan Larson Performing Arts Award for composing the music to Radiant Baby, performed at the Public Theater, directed by George C. Wolfe, with book and co-lyricist Stuart Ross, creator of Forever Plaid, about graffiti artist Keith Haring. Radiant Baby will get a new production in June of 2022 at the Two River Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey. This month, she performed selections from the upcoming production with Tony Award-winning actress Lena Hall singing 3 songs live at the Fenimore Art Museum in Cooperstown, New York, where they installed the Keith Haring exhibit Radiant Vision. Deborah co-wrote book, music, and lyrics for the all-female musical A Taste of Things to Come with Holly Levin, which ran at the Bucks County Theater, Broadway Playhouse Chicago, and off-Broadway at the York Theater, directed by Lauren Latero, and is published by Concord Theatricals. She was a composer for the song cycle Songs from an Unmade Bed at the New York Theater Workshop, Sophie at Jewish Repertory Theater, NBC's Policewoman Centerfold soundtrack, and wrote book, music, and lyrics for her one-woman shows Go to Your Womb and A Womb with a View at Cap 21 and Cherry Lane Theater. Her holiday musical, co-written with Tim Solka, The Most Miserable Christmas Tree, got its world premiere in New York. Deborah's musicals, co-written with Sheila Ray, include Every Other Thursday and Our Very Best People, both adapted from Edna Ferber's short stories. The first was performed at NJ Rep in an evening called Five by Ferber, published by Smith and Krause. Barsha and Ray also wrote the 15-minute musical From This Moment. Barsha and Ray received an NAMT Writers Grant for their musical, The Helena Project. Her songs have been recorded by Rebecca Luker, George Clinton, and Mary Balin, among others. She sang on Prince's 1-800 New Funk, George Clinton's R&B Skeletons in the Closet, and Thomas Dolby's May the Cube Be With You. Barsha also played keyboard and sang with Thomas Dolby on his Flat Earth tour. Barsha originated roles and was the music director for the original off-Broadway companies of both Tony and Tina's Wedding and Charles Busch's Swingtime Canteen. She also served as music director for the Steven Sater Serge Tankian world premiere of Prometheus Bound at ART, directed by Diane Paulus. She conducted Karen O's opera Stop the Virgins at St. Anne's Warehouse and at the Sydney Opera House. Barsha wrote the vocal arrangement for the Yeah 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 single Sacrilege, conducted live on Late Night with David Letterman with Broadway inspirational voices, and AWOL Nation single I Am, conducted on Late Night with Seth Meyers. She arranged vocals for Orange is the New Black star Leah Deliria's David Bowie tribute album, House of David. She is one of the playwrights of the live-streamed period piece directed by Karen Carpenter. Her song, We're Still Here, a tribute to our healthcare workers, can be viewed on Barsha's YouTube channel, performed by her. Barsha was the associate conductor for both Broadway's Jersey Boys and Summer, the Donna Summer musical, and she is currently the pianist for Tina, the Tina Turner musical on Broadway. Thank you.
Is Miss Barsha not here? There she is. There she comes. There we go.
They said I could take my mask off, so. Okay. 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 Hi, JD fans. It's amazing to be back here. And first, I want to say it's an honor to be recognized and be amongst the others who will be inducted tonight into the Jamesville-DeWitt Fine Arts Hall of Fame. I was thinking about what to say and how to be brief, which is not my forte. But I realized I have to start with the award that I was given when I graduated from here. It was the I Dare You Award. And it was this little dark red book. And it was written by William Danforth. And it was daring me to succeed. And whatever committee, whoever thought of that word for me, somehow knew it was exactly what I needed at the time, to send someone off fresh out of high school and dare them to succeed. What a concept, and it worked. So over the years, I've looked back at my time at JD. I had amazing memories of inspirational teachers that influenced me greatly. I just wanted to give you a couple of them. He told me to keep this under 5 minutes. It's not, it's 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay, Mr. Anderson, my math teacher, who was so passionate about a mathematical concept that he jumped on top of his desk, wagged his finger in our collective faces and warned us, don't touch, and playing keyboards with the other hand. I'm reminded of how I was the piano player for Dan Yankees at JD. In essence, my first rehearsal pianist experience. And my sense of humor, I remember, of Mr. Polakemi and Mr. Stouffer, the dynamic science duo. I used to love them. They still make me laugh when I think of moments. And to this day, I can't remember the name of the guidance counselor who met with me and heard me. I told him, 10th grade, I knew exactly what I wanted to be and do, and is it possible to graduate in 3 years? He said, double up in science and math, and you can do it, and I did. And whoever you are, I forgot your name, but thank you so much. It changed my life. And of course, to my hero, Kate Clinton, who was Kathleen Clinton at the time. She taught here, to give up a teaching career in 1976. To become a lesbian comedian took a lot of guts, and she made English a blast, trying out her material on all of us. Syracuse was so important to me. As many of you know, my dad, Jerry Barsha, was the anchorman on the news here for 30 years. And greatly respected in this community. He taught me performing could be effortless and natural. He took off from work to drive me to New York City to knock on doors and try to sell my songs to publishers when I was 15. My sisters Cynthia, Amy, Janice all went to JD. Janice and her wife Lelia are here today, as well as my wife Kim and my mother and my niece Elizabeth. Although we are scattered all over, we continue to be close, and my mother, Martha, still lives in the childhood home we grew up in here. I have to express gratitude to my mom for driving me to piano lessons every Wednesday all the way to Pompey Center Road in the blizzards of Syracuse to study with Lois Horn, and to my first piano teacher, Malu Kagan, who saw something in me and recommended me to Mrs. Horn, and it was Mrs. Kagan who taught me middle C looks like a hot dog sticking out of a hamburger roll. Thank you. And playing with the Syracuse Symphony, which I'm so sad to hear doesn't exist anymore, was a complete joy and honor. Playing Lucy from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown at the Soul City Playhouse was my first acting job during the time at JD, but I was prepared for it because I played the lead of Miss Brooks in the middle school play, and the education of Hyman Kaplan right here at the JD High School. And the point to all this is Jamesville-DeWitt High School was a giant formative experience for me. Thank you, Paul Rush, the whole committee for giving me this honor, and to all the people who just sang and anybody else who attends this school, I dare you to succeed. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Polly Sarah, class of 1985, music. Paul Sarah, also known as Polly Sarah, is a saxophonist, singer, piano player, songwriter, arranger, and producer living in Los Angeles. Originally from a small rural area bordering FM, FP, and JD school districts, Polly considered himself very fortunate to have attended Jamesville-DeWitt. It is a wonderful place for a kid to grow up. The teachers and counselors were helpful, guiding students into adulthood and further them in their chosen career paths. Polly makes special note of teachers Ron Nuzzo, Bonnie Nye, and Carl Wenzel, and also coaches Bruce Quimby, Jack Schmitter, and Tom Mensch. The household music played by his mother and older siblings attracted Polly to the saxophone. The sounds of Bruce Springsteen, Bob Seger, James Taylor, and Pink Floyd, along with jazz and 50s rock and roll, were always in the air. Early encouragement by CNY jazz impresario Frank Malfitano, who would sneak Polly into his Syracuse Jazz Fest shows, exposed him to many great live performances by jazz legends like Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, David Sanborn, and Michael Brecker. These shows left a lasting impression on him and deepened his love of the saxophone and music. Frank later hosted Polly on his Just Jazz radio show. Being from a hardworking family with 6 boys and not a lot of money, Polly had a late start in music, a daunting obstacle to overcome. Being new to the band program as a junior in high school meant he was years behind the other students in reading and ensemble work. Case in point was his finishing dead last in all-county on saxophone. Band director Ron Nuzzo always encouraged him to keep practicing, as did renowned CNY woodwind and saxophone teacher, the late, great Jerry Santee. Paul studied with Santee for years and continued with him well into his career. Jerry always inspired him when a student needed it, often with sports-related quips. Don't be the guy who sits on the bench asking to be put in the game, only to get your chance and promptly commit 3 errors in the first inning, never to be heard of again. Work hard and earn the right to be put in the game. This lesson carries on with Polly today. Dreams of studying with Santee's mentor, the great saxophone teacher Joe Allard, eluded Polly when he was rejected by the prestigious New England Conservatory, but he wasn't discouraged. He attended SUNY Fredonia and spent time playing in the jazz ensemble along with several rock and fusion bands. He began his professional career traveling the U.S. with an R&B show band. After living in Memphis to de-stress from road life and resume studies with Santee, Soon rising blues star Lucky Peterson would sweep up Polly, taking him around the world, headlining major blues and jazz festivals for the next 2 years. They would remain friends and continue working on and off until Peterson's untimely death in 2020. Peterson remains a constant inspiration to Polly as an artist. In 2000, Polly relocated to Los Angeles, where he amassed quite a resume, touring and recording Lionel Richie, Richie Lee Jones, Larry Carlton, Kurt Franklin with Stevie Wonder, and fellow Central New Yorker Joe Bonamassa. Several projects received Grammy Awards, Grammy nominations, Blues Music Awards, and other accolades. In 2005, Polly released his first of 2 solo records to date. Polly's performances have captivated the audiences world over. Polly's future plans include touring, writing, recording, and producing new music. He loves Los Angeles, but always considers Jamesville-DeWitt and CNY his home. His inspiration during his formative years comes directly from the fantastic and inspiring teaching and coaches at Jamesville-DeWitt. Never become discouraged, ever. Put in the hard work, study, keep learning and expanding, and forever look to update your skills in whatever becomes your chosen field. Elevate your craft to artistry, and an artist, always remember that your life story is as valid as anyone else's and deserves to be told through your art. Polly Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah. Congratulations. Of course. There you go. Right. Very nice. There you go.
Thank you, guys. First, I'll thank the committee and Paul Rush for putting this together. It's a fantastic way to honor both the school and the students that come from it. As far as the specific people that influenced me, it's great to see Vic Russo, Ron Nuzzo, Rick Ellison, and of course, Tom Minch, who at one point when the practice football field was in the back of the band room, much closer than it is now, he took me aside and he said, you know, you could be a hell of a football player if you just get your act together. And it meant a lot that somebody would come up to me and actually mention that. Excuse me. Another person that's here with me tonight that was important that was mentioned is Frank Malfitano. And Frank has as we shared this story, I believe we narrowed it down to about 12 years old. Frank used to have a show on WNDR on Sunday night called Just Jazz with Frank Malfitano. And I used, as a 12-year-old kid, I would call him up and say, hey, would you play, you know, some Cannonball Adderley or some Stan Getz or, you know, Oscar Peterson? And finally he said, who is this? And he said, put your mother on the phone. And he invited us to the station. He said, pick up a pizza and some soda and come to the station. And he let me spin records. And we became friends, and he helped me out immensely as a kid, sneaking me into festivals where I was underage, and, you know, just to see these great musicians. So as educators and in the school, that's what you guys have done. You've allowed us to be inspired, and especially Ron Nuzzo and Bonnie Nye in the high school, where they led such a great department here, and it's carried on obviously with the chorus we just saw it opening up. But it really does add a lot of inspiration to young people, you know, especially as upside down as things are right now, to keep kids' heads on straight and to give them something, an outlet emotionally and artistically. It's amazing. So you guys have always done a great job at this school, the administration, and especially the teachers. Another teacher that I'd like to mention is Carl Wenzel, the great art teacher. Everybody loved Mr. Wenzel. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for putting this together and putting this on, and enjoy yourself tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
When I left home for the first time, it wasn't to go to college or anything like that. It was to go on the road with the next inductee. That was a big step in my journey, a big first step especially. And it's an unbelievable privilege to be able to present Bill's journey right now. Bill's introduction to piano was at age 5 when his cousin Carol Lee Augustus came to visit with her family. She sat him at the piano, teaching him some basic melodies he picked up by ear. He was hooked and asked to take lessons. Bill studied with Tom DeSantis, father of famed local orchestra leader Mario DeSantis, and Marion Karp. He spent a summer at the Interlochen Arts Academy, preparing himself to audition for a number of conservatory music schools with an interest in composition. Bill has fond memories of concert and select choirs and being accompanist for Roaring Twenties and school musicals, all under the direction and mentorship of Bonnie Nye. Hi, Bonnie. We wish you could be with us. With Ron Nuzzo, he took theory classes and was selected pianist for the jazz ensemble. Bill was also bitten by the rock band bug in his freshman year and performed with some of his buddies at high school dances, DeWitt Community Church's Teen Canteen, and the Campus Inn at Suburban Park. Bill's rock hero at the time was his brother Chuck, Carmen and the Vikings, for those of you old enough to remember. Chuck was a Viking. Bill earned a Bachelor of Music from the Eastman School, majoring in composition. He studied with Joseph Schwantner, Samuel Adler, and as an avid fan of jazz rock, he took master classes from Thad Jones, Oliver Nelson, and Marion McPartland. He also performed with the jazz ensemble under the direction of Chuck Mangione. Bill earned a Master of Music in Composition from the University of California's Sorton School of Music. He focused on writing and scoring music for film, studying with Bernardo Segal, David Raskin, Halsey Stevens, and Anthony Vazana. After graduation, Bill signed with LA-based Graydon Associates and did a brief stint traveling on the road with 2 show bands. During this time, he met a songwriter who set him up at Malico Studios in Jackson, Mississippi, where he played on recording sessions, arranged and transcribed music, and filed copyrights. The company in charge of music production was April Blackwood Publishing, a division of CBS Columbia Records. Upon returning to Syracuse area, Bill was hired as full-time instructor at Syracuse University's Sentner School of Music in the College of Visual and Performing Arts. Professor Emeritus M. Douglas Sawyers, who co-founded the music industry degree program, which had seen unprecedented growth, felt the need to add a second full-time instructor who had strong music and music business background. Sawyers charged Bill with developing curricular offerings to help grow the program, make it competitive with peer institutions, and attract students. Bill created courses in songwriting, film scoring and jingle writing, and record production, while teaching music business courses and history of jazz. For 6 years, Bill directed, wrote, and arranged for Windjammer, the vocal jazz group. He later became the founding director-arranger for the Sentner Jazz Funk Ensemble. In 2006, upon Sawyer's retirement, Bill became interim chair and director of the music industry program, and in 2014 was granted tenure as associate professor and became permanent department chair. During Bill's time at Sentner, he continued to perform, write, and do music business research. He visited Brazil, performing a series of concerts and guest lecturing at the University of Rio. He traveled to Japan, performing and holding master classes at Senzoku Gakuen College of Music, and performed in Tokyo at the Live House Blue Mood Club. Bill presented research at the Atener Visual and Performing Arts Conference in Athens, Greece, with the paper being published in their international journal. In 2014, Bill was named Jazz Educator of the Year by the CNY Jazz Arts Foundation and has received Syracuse Area Music Awards for his keyboard work and original music with Dave Hanlon's Cookbook, Swing Central, and Grupo Pagan. The Bill DeCosmo Quartet's 2 album releases, Grab Hold of Your Dreams and Threads, feature original compositions by Bill, recorded and produced on his own label. Both albums feature vocals by his wife, Lisa Kulikin DeCosmo, and have received worldwide radio airplay. In 2016, Bill partnered with Denninger Media. He was contracted to write and record original music for the documentary films America's First Sport, The History of Lacrosse, Agent of Change, The David B. Falk Story, and the Roy Simmons Jr. and Floyd Little documentaries. America's First Sport has been broadcast internationally and on ESPN and PBS. Most recently, Bill collaborated with longtime musical partner Edgar Pagan, co-writing and recording the album Con Moto, produced by 4-time Grammy winner Jimmy Haslip. The 2021 release has received international airplay and has topped the Latin jazz charts. And I might add, Paul Serra played on that album as well. In May 2021, Bill retired from Syracuse University, and he now enjoys his time writing, recording original music, performing, and most important, spending time with his longtime supporter, fan, and love, Lisa Kulikin DeCosmo. Please welcome Bill to the stage.
I can breathe. All right, so I think between Deb and Polly, most of what they had to say about the mentorship and guidance and love and support of the faculty here at JD is unprecedented. And I remember being kind of a shy kid who the only thing I really knew how to do halfway decent was play the piano. And it was that I had the opportunity to accompany for the choirs and be able to work in the jazz band and actually was invited to become a part of the music community here at the high school. I want to take a second just to mention that I would like to remember those that have left us from the class of 1970. It's sad to hear that some of my current Facebook friends and colleagues through our time together in social media is that it was sad for me to see so many of my friends from high school who have left us. So I wanted to make mention of that. Finally, I wanted to say that for me, what was important through my career at Syracuse University was that, again, for M. Doug Sawyers was the person who was instrumental in bringing me on, is that what he told the dean of the School of Music was, "That's the guy I want." And for me, that meant something to have also at the level of higher education, to have someone who believed in me and what I was doing and become a mentor and a friend and have me help him grow that program. One of the things, kind of anecdotal here, is that some years back, when I was directing the vocal jazz ensemble Windjammer, I engaged kind of a shy Italian kid from the Philadelphia area, and I asked him if he'd play drums with the ensemble, and he said, "Yeah, I don't know if I could do that." I said, "You could do that." And this particular drummer also took the songwriting class with me, and he was writing songs and singing and playing guitar. Yes, he played guitar and drums as well. He was writing music that sounded an awful lot like John Mayer. And I said to him, "Dan," I said, "find your own voice." And he looked at me and he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, there already is a John Mayer." Okay. And I said, "The other thing that you need to consider as a music business major who's extremely talented on multiple instruments and writes music is that it's going to be important for you when you leave this academic institution that you understand that the importance of being able to wear a lot of hats. And so, you know, I charge anybody who's here that's a musician and an artist that you consider the fact that the more hats you wear, Polly, Sarah, that Barsha, the better able you are to be successful in the career that you may love. And so with that, Dan Emilio, just to kind of put this into perspective, he went on and signed with BMG Chrysalis. He's a platinum selling songwriter and has written hits for Maroon 5 and Gym Class Heroes and a number of others. And to this day, Dan and I are friends on Facebook, and he still reaches out to me and he thanks me for my mentorship to him. And, you know, there's many students who graduated from Syracuse University in the music industry degree program have gone on to carve out excellent careers. And I feel that I can tell you that the most important thing to me, as I learned from my mentors here, was that to be a good mentor to my students at Syracuse University was the most important thing that I could do. And I'm proud of that fact more than anything else. So, and without saying, I also want to thank the committee, Paul Rush. And by the way, Paul is right. He was on the road with me for a while in one of those show bands out in LA. So we had a lot of fun together for a while on the road. But in any event, thank you so much to the committee and my sincere gratitude for having the opportunity to be here with you today. Thank you.
Congratulations. Good evening, everyone. Our next inductee is author Eric Lichtblau from the class of 1983. Eric's two great loves at Jamesville-DeWitt High School were writing and singing, and when he wasn't in class, he could usually be found in the chorus room. He performed in Roaring Twenties, All-State Chorus, a cappella groups, and numerous school and summer musicals with Ron Nuzzo, Bonnie Nye, and Brendan Noose, and still considers his role as the revolutionary Perchik in Fiddler on the Roof a highlight of his short-lived acting career. And to this day, he regrets passing up the role of the Elvis-styled teen angel in Greece because of a cousin's wedding in Boston on the same weekend as the show's performance. Honing the written word became Eric's primary pursuit at Cornell University. While he was a student there, he wrote for the Cornell Daily Sun and the Syracuse Post-Standard. Eric received his Bachelor of Arts in English and Political Science in 1987. As a Washington reporter for the New York Times for 15 years, he earned Pulitzer Prizes in 2006 for stories revealing the existence of the secret NSA surveillance program approved after the 9/11 attacks, and in 2018 as part of the team that examined Russia's interference in the 2016 election and its ties to the eventual administration. He was also a reporter with the Los Angeles Times for 15 years at the start of his career, and he has written long-form pieces for The New Yorker and other publications. Eric has written 3 nonfiction books: Bush's Law, The Remaking of American Justice, the best-selling The Nazis Next Door, How America Became a Safe Haven for Hitler's Men, and Return to the Reich, a Holocaust refugee secret mission to defeat the Nazis. He is currently working on a new book about the alarming surge in hate crimes in America carried out by white supremacists and neo-Nazis. He has served as a panelist and moderator for various educational symposia taking place at Georgetown University School of Law, American University, the Constitution Project, the American Civil Liberties Union, the New School for Social Research, the Montpelier Foundation, and Mensa. He has also appeared as a frequent guest on numerous news shows, including CNN, PBS, NPR, CSPAN, and ABC. Eric has been a visiting professor of journalism at both Georgetown University and UCLA, and has also lectured at major universities across the country. Now presenting Eric Lichtblau. Congratulations.
Congratulations. There you go.
Wow, thank you so much. What an event. And thanks to the kids for that great performance and to Paul and the committee for putting this together and to including me alongside such a diverse group of artists. I mean, everything from architecture to Broadway performance and on and on and on. Before tonight, I might have thought that my greatest distinction in the JD history of arts was to have made the Tecumseh and middle school band on clarinet when a friend of mine, a drummer by the name of John Fishman, got cut. That was my distinction. He went on to great things, as I hope all of you know, while my career in clarinet was short-lived. Although I did take up piano again a few years ago, so I still have a chance at that. I take weekly lessons, which I love as an aside. And to be here on this stage for the first time, and I think it must be 20 plus years since there was I was here for a Roaring Twenties reunion, and I keep peeking behind the curtains to see whether Bonnie Nye is going to come out and lead us in a rendition of Birdland or a number from Anything Goes or something. So I'm so everyone has mentioned Bonnie, and I wish she were here. I would love to see her. She was such an inspiration to me, and I look back on those years performing with the chorus and in shows as really a start to my career as a writer and a journalist. I always loved writing and did tons and tons of it in English classes and humanities with Mrs. Adams and other teachers, and even started a publication called the Jamesville-DeWitt Baseball Biweekly, which if you don't remember, you can be excused because we had a total of 2 issues that we printed out in 1983 on Xerox pages, and we quickly went out of business. I was able to continue my career as a journalist and a writer, and I look back on those times in high school and into college when I did summer shows with Mr. Nye and Bonnie, I think, as well. As really formative. I think that was a word that several people have used in terms of complementing my writing, my passion for writing, with the pathos and the drama and the view of humanity really that comes with the shows and the arts and the ability to present a story and to connect with people on a very real and personal level. And at one level, as a journalist, do I deserve to be up here as a representative of the arts? It may not seem like a perfect fit, but I do hope that in my writing, especially in my books that I've written, I have tried to illustrate the power of the words, the power of literature and of prose to make a difference, to inspire people, sometimes to enrage people, to shine a light, and to sometimes shake people out of their complacency by showing them things that they didn't know. I mean, that's basically the theme that runs through all my books, as I've written about some very dark topics, to be honest, about Nazis in World War II and about 9/11 and the aftermath, and about government spying programs and civil liberties intrusions. And these are it's not exactly pretty stuff all the time that I write about. In fact, it rarely is. But I think that there is a power that comes with the written word to hopefully make an emotional and an intellectual connection with people and to educate them in a way that at the end of the day, hopefully makes a difference in their lives. So thank you for including me in this evening tonight. Thank you.
Hello. First of all, Deborah, I worked at the ART. I now work at the Public. I love Leah Delaria's club in P-Town, and I just saw Tina the other night. So we should grab a cookie. I have the amazing privilege to induct Babs Rubenstein. my longtime friend into the Hall of Fame, and it is a true honor. So I will editorialize as little as possible. Babs was always singing and dancing around as a child. By the way, I found out today that Babs shares a birthday with my husband, but she is 1 year older, which makes me still the youngest inductee into the Hall of Fame, but we're still trying to get an age on Ron Nuzzo, so not sure. Okay. Back to the script. Her passion for musicals began when her father rented movie musicals from Blockbuster for her on the weekends. For the kids, that's an old place you used to get, like Netflix. She started taking dance at the age of 4 and got her first taste of being on stage, but it was Charlotte Haas who nurtured her growing singing talent. Mrs. Haas cast her as the lead, the court jester, in their 4th grade musical, Many Moons, at Tecumseh Elementary. In middle school, Babs auditioned for the combined 7th and 8th grade show choir, the Good Time Singers, led by Sean Hebert. She wanted to be a part of the group so badly that she skipped her bat mitzvah luncheon so she could make it to callbacks for the group auditions, which she passed. During her 2 years with the group, Mr. Hebert suggested that she audition for the Town of Manlius summer shows and the Bristol Hills Music Camp, and she was selected for both of those ensembles, of course. During high school, Babs enrolled in every choral, music theory, and music history class that was offered. I can attest to that. She auditioned for the show choir in accord and was one of 2 freshmen selected. She spent 4 years performing with the ensemble under the direction of Beth Quackenbush. Her in accord participation included annual trips to New York City to work with Broadway music director Kevin Stites. One of Babs's favorite memories is traveling to New York for coaching with Kevin for her role as Alice Bean in Titanic, her sophomore year high school musical. She was phenomenal. She also had roles in productions of Beauty and the Beast and Footloose. However, and this is very important, she is best remembered for her freshman year performance as Madame Thénardier in Les Miserables, directed by Shannon Tompkins. Not saying it's ever the best thing that's ever been on this stage, but it might have been. Her mother, Babs specifically even, her mother costumed each of the 4 high school musicals Babs appeared in, and I just want to say that that's not all that Babs's mother did. She was a mom to all of us in the department, and we love her. Babs was also very active in the Syracuse theater community. She took classes at the Syracuse Children's Theater, that'll come up again later, and performed at the Syracuse Civic Theater. She received the first special Rising Star Award when the Salty Awards were created, which also means that Babs and I share 2 honors, as we both have been honored at the Salt Awards. And here, it's crazy, twins. After high school, Babs attended the Boston Conservatory, beginning as a voice major. During her freshman year, she was a cover soloist for Boston Conservatory's Women's Chorale with the New England Philharmonic. She sang as the special guest soloist for the Boston Gay Men's Chorus, very fitting for Babs because she's my best friend, and was also chosen to do a master class with the late Tony Award-winning actress soprano Barbara Cook. After her freshman year, Babs switched majors from voice to musical theater. They made her start over and pay for another year. That's criminal. But she continued to study classical voice during the ensuing 5 years. I got to see a lot of her performances in Boston because I was also in school there, and it was amazing. It just got better and better. She earned her Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater in 2011. After graduation, Babs moved to New York City, where she hired an agent and began performing regionally. She worked at Goodspeed Opera House in Connecticut, Seacoast Repertory Theater, and the New London Barn Playhouse in New Hampshire, and Cleveland, Ohio's Hannah Theater in Playhouse Square. In New York City, she performed many new works, readings of musicals, and has created many cabaret shows. She also traveled the country for a year with Broadway's first national tour of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. During the summer off-season, she would return home to Syracuse to direct shows for the Syracuse Children's Theater. Told you it would come back up. When the pandemic shut down theaters in New York, she found herself living full-time in Syracuse, where she currently holds the position of education director at the Syracuse Children's Theater. That's the end of what is written here, and I just want to say, Babs, you are an amazing, amazing person. I could not be more honored to be inducting you, and I love you.
Congratulations. Good to see you.
Thank you so
proud of
much.
you.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet.
Oh my God, this is beautiful. Oh, gosh, I haven't been on a stage in like a year and a half, so this is pretty great. Oh, thank you to the committee and Paul Rush for this wonderful honor. And thank you to Alex. He always made me look so beautiful from the lighting booth for every show that we've done here. There are a few people I would like to thank that were not on the whole spiel. First, I'd like to thank Kathy Moncrief and Rebecca Karpoff. They were two voice teachers of mine that really helped me during high school, including Beth Quackenbush. How could we forget Beth Quackenbush? And although I never had Bonnie Nye, she always played for my NISMA performances. So it was amazing to work with Bonnie. I also have to thank my college voice teacher, Victor Janet, who I really would not be here today if it wasn't for him. But like Alex said, my mother was a huge part of JD as well. She costumed every show since I was in 6th grade. It wasn't only the high school shows. She would work till 3 in.the.morning doing costumes to make sure that they looked exactly like the original Broadway cast. You know, parents would bring in food on the weekends for rehearsals, and the techies would never get fed because it was all gone. So she would go home and make tuna fish sandwiches and PBJs to make sure that they were fed. So this is for my mother. I would not be here today if it wasn't for her. But I also want to thank my dad, who drove me to all of these rehearsals. I was driving here today with him, and I was like, can you believe that you're driving me back to the chorus room? And he was like, I can't believe it. So thank you very much for this honor. It's really wonderful, and I will treasure this. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Renee Schultz Jacobson, class of 1985. An artist, advocate, teacher, and writer, often weaving them together simultaneously. An English teacher for over 2 decades, her life turned upside down in 2013 when she suffered an iatrogenic genetic brain injury. At age 4, Renee attended art school at Syracuse University, but during her time at Jamesville-DeWitt schools, her passion became writing. Her favorite teachers bear this out. At Genesee Hills, Mrs. Church, Jim Barnello, Carol Milello, at middle school, Mr. Barron, and at high school, Brendan News, Jim McKeefer, and Helen Lanfear. Her education continued at Hobart and William Smith colleges, graduating Phi Beta Kappa in 1989, earning a Bachelor of Arts in English and Women's Studies. She received her Master's of Arts in English at SUNY Buffalo in 1992, while also serving as adjunct teaching women's poetry writing workshops for 2 semesters. Renee taught honors and regular 10th grade English in Metairie, Louisiana, then 9th and 11th grade English at Brighton High School in Rochester. She was adjunct instructor at Monroe Community College, being named Adjunct of the Year in 2012. Then came her injury. While homebound and disabled for over 2 years, she started painting as a way to distract herself from her excruciating symptoms, and Raza Jacobson art was born. During that time, Renee became interested in the tension between outward appearance and internal reality, and her art reflects this duality. Despite her cheerful palette, oftentimes her colorful crowd of characters seems to be deep in thought, even a little sad. Renee's long-standing medium of choice has been acrylic paint because of its extensive layering capability and intense, vivid colors. But during the COVID-19 quarantine, she discovered a love of watercolors. All of her work employs layers of bright, pure color, sometimes laid over an undercoat of textural pattern. She enjoys experimenting with multimedia and embellishing her canvases with buttons and ribbons and jewels. 8 years after her injury, her brain has mostly healed, and it has become her mission to educate the public, and doctors especially, about the dangers associated with long-term prescription benzodiazepine use. In addition to being a full-time professional artist, she teaches memoir writing classes, serves as a certified recovery peer advocate, and is the author of the memoir, Psychiatrized, Waking Up After a Decade of Bad Medicine. Renee is grateful to all of her teachers in the Jamesville-DeWitt Central School District, especially her English teachers, Miss Helen Lanfear and Mr. Jim McKeever, whose assignments always felt personal and relevant. Their passion for teaching and learning is an ongoing inspiration in Renee's life. Her home and her studio are in Rochester, New York, and she returns to Syracuse regularly as her parents still live in their childhood home on Windsor Drive. Renee remains in touch with many of her former classmates from Jamesville-DeWitt and is honored to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with so many other talented alums.
I just brought a little something to read. No, I'm not going to read it. Check, check. Okay, now for something a little different. I really didn't prepare very much. So I was interested when the superintendent was saying that everyone here who's being inducted tonight was either a scholar or an artist or a musician. And I kind of went, well, those of you who know me out there know I was none of those things. I was more of a cheerleader and a dancer and, had a big personality, I guess you would say. I did enter my foray, have a little stint in plays. Mrs. Nye actually did 1 year. She double cast. I can never remember which play. Was it Mame or Dolly? Hello, Dolly. And this was my line, but I don't want to go to school. I just want to get married. And Lisa Cooligan, who's out there tonight, also said that line because she was the other cast member. That was all I did in chorus. I did play I was in band and I also played the flute. And, so I dabbled in the arts, but that really wasn't my home. And I was sort of a master, what do they say? It's a jack of all trades, master of none. And, but I really did love to write. And as you heard, my English teachers meant everything to me. And they made a great impact on me, so much so that I became an English teacher. And I did that for 20 years until I had this brain injury. I do also want to add that there's a little bit of, for me, this is an interesting irony. In high school, I actually, my homeroom was in one of the art rooms. And we'll just say it wasn't Mr. Wenzel's room. And it was a very dark room. And in this particular room, there was always paint all over every surface. And me being, in my cheerleader uniform, I didn't want to get paint all over myself. And I would have frequent conflicts with the art teacher in there. And one day he had enough of me not being willing to sit down, and he sort of cast me out from the art room forever because I just didn't want to sit down and get paint all over myself. And now I just think it is great irony that my entire house is covered in art, all my chairs, all my clothes. I mean, I bought some new things for tonight, but I'm covered in art. And so I do think it's just kind of funny that I never thought I would end up here. While I was healing from that iatrogenic injury, that medically caused injury, that is when I started to paint from bed. And I actually was injured for over 4 years. I was homebound and disabled for 2. So it's really, this art stuff has come to me as a second chance, and it has been nothing short of miraculous for me. I'm stunned that people are asking me to teach their children art. I mean, I know I taught English for a long time and I'm comfortable teaching, but teaching children art, something that just is so effortless for me. And that I've written this book that's being well received and that it's being hopefully turned into a screenplay. This is just amazing to me. So I know that you heard all the people that I wanted to thank, or many of the people in my written write-up, but I do want to just take a minute to thank my parents who are here tonight. And while they may have not had to schlep me to the chorus room, they certainly schlepped me around to many other places, and they have been a source of tremendous support the entire way, especially when I was going through this injury and I lost so many people. So I thank you, Mom and Dad, for everything. You front-loaded me with great education and just an appreciation for being having a life of learning. And so I wanted to thank the both of you. And I just want to say again, my 2 teachers who I just loved with all my heart were Mrs. Lanfear and Mr. McKeever. They've just supported me so much, even over the years behind the scenes. And I guess I just wanted to say thank you to Paul Rush and the committee for recognizing the contributions of those of us who landed in the arts, no matter whether it was intentional or accidental. And I just wanted to say to everyone else that it's never too late to make a major change in your life's path. You can do it. So thank you all so much for being here tonight.
The next inductee is John T. Shields, class of 1975, architecture. John was that weird kid drawing house plans and multi-unit housing at lunch in middle school. He credits his diverse combination of history, art, math, science, literature, theater, and technical drawing classes for his early interest in architecture and design. His parents recognized his talent in art and sent him to classes at the Everson Museum and Syracuse University while in elementary school. His family enjoyed traveling to stimulating locations on vacation, opening his eyes to the world. Environmental events for the first Earth Day in 1970 also left a lasting impression on him. He was involved in theater productions at JD, as well as Salt City Playhouse and Syracuse Stage, where he enjoyed helping to create stage sets and promotional posters. As a senior, he enjoyed an Explorer post focusing on architecture, which was his first exposure to the profession of landscape architecture. Though his senior yearbook states he'd become a landscape architect, John attended St. Lawrence University to see if liberal arts might pique any other interests. But it was still set design, architecture, and art classes that he found most exciting, so he transferred to SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry to focus on landscape architecture. Realizing his primary passion was creating environments that were both functional and emotionally stirring, he chose to focus on urban design and site planning. In his 5th year, he spent a semester in France, where he finally got to use his 5 years of French classes. While traveling throughout Europe on his own, filling sketchbooks with his observations, he gained an independent confidence that he would rely on the rest of his career. His work for the studio led to a 27-year tenure at Walt Disney Imagineering, beginning in 1990 as a land planner for its theme parks. He spent 7 years developing and building Disney's Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World, working as overall parks site planner and chief designer for the Kilimanjaro Safaris attraction. With knowledge gained from the Animal Advisory Board and multiple research trips to Africa, he also became the primary habitat designer for Disney. The safari won the 1998 Themed Entertainment Association Award for the Best New Attraction. Thereafter, he worked with creative teams developing entirely new parks for Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Paris, and Tokyo. He went on to design new lands and existing Disney parks for Marvel, Frozen, Star Wars, Avatar, and Ratatouille. He spent his last few years at Disney working on a relaunch of Epcot and simultaneous roles as art director, concept designer, landscape architect, and site planner for the Disneyland parks and hotels. John retired in 2017 and has continued pursuing his passion by training to be a master gardener, serving as a docent for architectural tours, and traveling abroad 3 or 4 months each year.
Congratulations to you. Very well done. There you go.
Well, I still feel a bit like that weird kid for doing what I did for the last 45 years. In fact, the first thing I thought when Paul contacted me about being selected for the Fine Arts Hall of Fame was to say to myself, me? Really? What exactly are the fine arts? I did a quick Google search and discovered that the Oxford Dictionary defines fine art as, quote, a creative art whose products are to be appreciated primarily for their imaginative, aesthetic, or intellectual content. So then I started to feel a bit better about being alongside all these amazingly talented musicians, artists, and performers who have received this honor, because I've spent my career trying to create wonderful places that will delight, inspire, and entertain people. Of course, all this started with my parents recognizing an interest within me that they could not have understood. They didn't really show much interest in creative aesthetics. And yet both my sister and I went into creative fields. She more than I, in fact. She's an artist and a art foundation head and an art critic. And I have to give our parents a lot of credit for supporting each of us in our pursuits every step of the way. They also initiated my passion for travel that has had a huge impact on me to this day in opening my eyes to the world. Now let's talk about how lucky I was to have attended the JD School District starting in 6th grade middle school. JD's focus on broad spectrum of disciplines provided the inspiration for everything I did afterward, and we should all ensure that that continues. Exposure to all subjects are what opened my mind to everything the world has to offer. It's funny, every once in a while, you'll hear students say, why should I learn geometry? Why am I taking biology or English lit or physics or French? When will I ever use those after graduation? Well, I can tell you that unexpectedly, I used all of those throughout my entire career. It might be a surprise to you. It's great to see that even 46 years after my graduation, JD is to continue to emphasize the well-rounded education that I received, including the arts. Bravo. So here's a contrasting story, and one I find a little depressing. My nephew grew up in Albuquerque, and I once asked him which music or art classes he enjoyed most in school. I was shocked to hear that his school didn't have any of those classes. No band, no chorus, no art, no foreign languages. His school had chosen to focus entirely on sports, not uncommon. But as a JD graduate, I couldn't even imagine that. I remember a lot of my best friends were on the football team, the soccer team, track, and were also playing in bands, singing in chorus, and dancing around on this stage in musicals. It didn't have to be one or the other. Well, I was here. So much credit for that goes to Bonnie Nye and Ron Nuzzo for simply making the music department fun and a cool place to hang out. My jobs ever since graduating college have been as a designer, which relies heavily on drawing. Now, there were no high school classes in design per se, but I always took art classes which taught me to express my thoughts visually. In my opinion, design is is looking at all angles of a problem and using all of your knowledge to come up with the best solution, both aesthetically and functionally. And you need to be able to convey those ideas through drawings and sketches. You need to work with other professionals as a team, but you also need to have a knowledge and confidence to state your own opinions. and I've heard more than once that I am opinionated. For me, the way a place looks and feels has always been my professional challenge. I think there's a lot of beauty in experiencing placemaking. Placemaking is a word. Placemaking that takes you, it holds you, and makes you feel good. That's entirely what Disney theme parks exist for. To go back to the Oxford definition of fine art again, a product to be appreciated primarily for its imaginative, aesthetic, or intellectual content. That defines what every inductee on this stage has dedicated themselves to, and I feel extremely honored to be amongst them. I thank my parents and my teachers for encouraging me on a career that I absolutely loved, and I'd like to thank Paul Rush and the JD Fine Arts Hall of Fame Committee for giving me this honor. Thank you very much.
The next inductee is Victor Russo. Instrumental teacher and band director Vic Russo started at the Jamesville-DeWitt School District in 1963 and retired in the year 2000 for a total of 37 years. Vic holds a bachelor's degree in music education as well as a master's degree in music education and music theory from Syracuse University. Vic was a member of Music Educators National Conference, New York State School Music Association, Onondaga County Music Association, and a member of the Syracuse Professional Musicians Union, Local 78. In Vic's first 4 years at Jamesville-DeWitt, he taught in the elementary schools at Genesee Hills, Jamesville, and Tecumseh. In 1967, Vic moved to the very progressive and innovative Jamesville-DeWitt Middle School. While at JD Middle School, Vic taught the 6th grade band combined with 7th and 8th grade band, jazz ensemble, and pit orchestra, along with music lessons and music theory. During his tenure at the middle school, on 2 separate occasions, Dr. Alice Kendrick, District Superintendent of Schools at Jamesville-DeWitt, presented Mr. Russo with merit awards for excellence in teaching. In Vic's other life as a professional trumpet player, he played at the Stan Colella Orchestra for 32 years, performing at 120 engagements a year. While in Stan Colella's orchestra, also known as the official New York State Fair Orchestra, Vic performed with Tony Bennett, Bob Hope, Engelbert Humperdinck, the Four Tops, the Temptations, Andy Williams, Suzanne Summers, Rosemary Clooney, Mickey Rooney, and many others. Vic always said about his career that he had the best of both worlds, playing professionally and teaching music in the best school district ever, Jamesville-DeWitt.
Great job. You really did a great job. He's coming up. He's got a big right.
Thank you very much. It's very nice. Thank you. Paul.
Congratulations. Good time. Well done, sir. Here you go. This is yours.
Ah, thank you.
Don't drop it.
Well, how you doing? I'm going to start off very legit and probably end very legit with a few anecdotes in between. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to this very special evening. I want to thank Dr. Peter Smith, the district superintendent, Mr. Paul Gasparini, the high school principal, and especially Paul Rush, Beth Quackenbush, and the entire JD Hall of Fame committee. I am honored to be chosen as one of the inductees. Also, a special thank you to my friends and my family right there in the front 3 rows. I started playing trumpet when I was 10 years old. I'm still playing 70 years later. Boy, these lips really hurt. It's true. During a band rehearsal my freshman year at Central High School, I sat down next to a much older trumpet player
He wore Dave Brubeck type black rimmed glasses, the same as me. He was Italian like me. He played trumpet like me. And our last names were almost the same. Mine was Russo and his was Ranuzzo. We became best friends and still are over 60 years later. At that time, we didn't realize how parallel our lives would become. We both went to Syracuse University, where I also met another lifelong friend who was out there, Dan DiAugustino. Danny. And Ron and I both started our teaching careers at JD. We were even best men at one and another's weddings. Yeah, I know. I owe my first teaching job to Mr. Jim Mosier, my lifelong trumpet instructor and founder of the music department here at Jamesville-DeWitt. He told me about a music opening at JD and that I should apply for it. So I did. I met with the superintendent of the schools, Mr. Harold Rankin. Mr. Rankin was somewhat stern, nonsense type of a guy. We met in his office where he was sitting with his feet up on his desk. He said, "So, young man, you want to teach in my schools?" I was 21 years old, a lot thinner, and I had hair. I said sheepishly, "Yes, sir, I do." He took a long look at me and said, "Well, if it's okay with Jim Mosier, it's okay with me." No more said. I became a Jamesville-DeWitt music teacher, just like that. Besides teaching, I always had a passion to be a professional performing trumpet player. My dream came true when I received a call from a good friend and fantastic trumpet player, Mr. Stan Colella. He was putting together a big band orchestra and wanted me to play in the trumpet section. I was overjoyed to have my dream come true. I played in the Stan Colella's orchestra for 32 years, performing at least 120 engagements a year. The best part about playing in the orchestra was that I performed, which you heard earlier, with many famous artists: Tony Bennett, Bob Hope, Suzanne Summers, The Temptations, Rosemary Clooney, Andy Williams, and Mickey Rooney, to mention a few. I had the best of both worlds. I was a music teacher and a professional trumpet player. My teaching career began in 1963. For the first 4 years, I taught in 3 of the elementary schools: Genesee Hills, Jamesville, and Tecumseh. In 1967, the new state-of-the-art middle school opened, and I was selected to be the instrumental music teacher and band director there. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade band and gave lessons to over 200 students a week. That's a lot of wrong notes. In addition, but it was my life, I chose it. In addition, I introduced and taught music theory classes, led a large jazz ensemble band with a vocalist, and had a full pit orchestra to back up our musicals. All of this was unheard of at the middle school level, but we did it. My teaching style was unique. I taught from my heart, not from a textbook telling me what to do. My students and I were a team. We had great fun together, while at the same time, they knew they had to work hard to meet my expectations. I also did what was best for my students. I treated them with care and respect, and then they, in return, treated me the same. I hugged them when they were upset and hugged them when they did something outstanding. This would be a big no-no today, but being an emotional Italian, I felt it. That's what I felt. In the 37 years at JD, I look forward to coming to school every day. It wasn't a job, it was a joy. I am forever grateful to have had the opportunity to be a teacher at Jamesville-DeWitt. So there you have it. But before I close, I would like to read an essay from one of my former students. It explains how he felt when he entered the band room. And here we go. This is a class. He wrote this as he was an 8th grader in 1992, a few years back. This is his letter. The band room became somewhat of a haven from the harsh world of seemingly endless classes. On the other side of that huge door was a warm, well-lit place where the sun always shone in through the windows on the opposite wall. On the wall to the right were the faces of various composers and musicians. I had a whole mural there. They seemed to welcome me, saying, "Come on in, sit down, relax." I always felt an instant sense of relief when I came in the room. Behind his head hung a sign with green and red printing saying, "Parking for Italians only, all others will be towed." He always sat leaning back in his chair, playing with his pencil and twitching his mustache, which is gone, but here it is. His quiet time, that's what he called it. Any girl unfortunate enough to walk in at this time would be immediately be hit up for milk and cookies. When I think of Vic Russo, this is how I remember him. He was always so laid back. I wanted to be able to spend my whole day hanging out in the band room, not having to worry about anything in the outside world. Though I wish that I could someday be able to lead a life like that, I have since then realized that could only be done by Mr. Russo. The only person I can picture doing this is Mr. Russo himself. This is how I will always remember him. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for Paul Rush.
Our next inductees tonight will be the Roaring Twenties Ensemble of 1968 and 1969. A first of its kind high school ensemble, the Roaring Twenties Show Choir was formed in the fall of 1968. It was the inspiration of Bonnie B. Nye. In the 1969 yearbook photo caption reads, "Roaring Twenties is a newly formed group of selected students who sing mostly popular music with their own special flair. They've made several personal appearances this year, both at concerts and parties, and have added a new and exciting dimension to JD's performing vocal groups." The 1968-69 charter edition of the ensemble had 23 members, including accompanist, and would be the only group to include students from all four high school classes. One piece featured in the group's original repertoire was "Once in Love with Amy." By its second year, auditions were limited to juniors and seniors because the JD talent pool was that deep. Over the years, Roaring Twenties would have two reunions, in 1989 and in 1994. When Bonnie retired in 1995, the Roaring Twenties name retired with her, but the ensemble continues to dance and roar, led by director Beth Quackenbush. They're currently called In Accord. From Bonnie B. Nye, 1968-1969 Roaring Twenties till 1995. After I was hired in 1963 by the JD Central School Board to teach general music and choruses at Jamesville Elementary, I was transferred in 1966 to the high school. That's where I truly belonged, and I loved all of my 30 years teaching there. During my high school and college days, I was happily chosen to play several musical theater roles. I knew I adored being on stage and loved being in productions that centered around singing and dancing. In my third year at JD High School, I decided I wanted to form a group of students who might enjoy doing just that. In that first year, I also decided on the name, the Roaring Twenties. I still don't know why exactly. However, I often informed our audiences that we weren't named because of the era, but are just 20 plus people who love to roar. And thus began my idea for a special choir whose objective was to entertain our JD community in and out of school, and to thank them for their continued support. Our first year, 1968-69, we had 23, including accompanist, very musically talented students who were chosen from all four high school years. We performed lighter type music with movement, which was rather unique in 1969. At the time, I don't think there were any types of high school show choirs in the Syracuse area, so I was just following a dream of mine, and I have them to thank for a lovely tradition. Those kids were absolutely adorable when they rehearsed and performed. It was such a delight, and many were chosen to perform in our musical that year. Guys and Dolls. So much fun. After Roaring Twenties' first year, I began auditioning only juniors and seniors because there was so much talent. Isn't that fabulous? Roaring Twenties Show Choir was a continual source of joy for me throughout all these years, although I always detested the auditioning process. When I retired in 1995, I had had 26 years of students singing and dancing, making beautiful music together. There were certainly many highlights during those decades, but nothing will match being chosen to represent New York State when the Roaring Twenties competed in the Young Americans National Invitational Show Choir competition in California in 1986. We stayed in Pasadena and competed at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles. I am absolutely thrilled that our original Roaring Twenties members are being honored tonight. They will always be very, very special to me. I thank hundreds of others too for carrying on the wonderful history of Jamesville-DeWitt music departments. No one more than I can thank enough of the former music teachers of Jamesville-DeWitt schools. They were the best. A huge thank you also to Beth Quackenbush for carrying on the Roaring Twenties tradition with such excellence, but under different names, of course. I have also to thank our JD administration and its total staff, teachers, secretaries, bus drivers, maintenance, and cafeteria personnel, plus our talented choreographers and wonderful parents for their incredible support throughout those years. Unbelievable. Thank you to Fine Arts Hall of Fame committee members for being so creative and honoring the 1968-69 Roaring Twenties. Fantastic memories. And now may any members of the Roaring Twenties 68-69 ensemble take their place on the stage to receive your certificates from Mr. Gasparini, please.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done. Here you go. Congratulations. Congratulations. You're welcome. Of course. Congratulations. Yeah, absolutely.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Paul Rush and the committee for everything you have done for our second annual eventful night for the JD Hall of Fame. Also like to thank the Jamesville-DeWitt administrators, staff, and personnel for hosting us tonight again. Everything is just fabulous. And especially I'd like to thank Bonnie Nye for starting Roaring Twenties. It has been the love of my life, musical theater, teaching music for years. Ron Nuzzo, Vic Russo, you all made such an impact on my life. And I've remembered all that you've taught me. I've remembered to smile and be happy. And for those students who are here singing up here on this stage, this is the best time. It really is. I didn't go on to musical theater. I taught school music education, vocal, and I had my little show choirs too. And I always had my colors be red, white, and black, even though I taught at FM. Even though I taught there, the green didn't do it for me. So I wanted more bling and bedazzlement, and you know where I learned that from, Bonnie Nye. I always had sequins on my outfits for concerts so the kids would watch me. And I was so proud of being their teacher and what they did. And all that was instilled in me through my music teachers here at JD. And it's not just the music teachers, it's this whole school community. They do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Good evening. I don't know if you noticed, but up until now, everybody who's been honored here tonight has been honored for all the things they did after they left JD. We, on the other hand, to quote, I'm not sure if it's Dr. John or Dr. Hook, to paraphrase, I should say, we were in the right place and it must have been the right time, because we were here in 68 and 69. And we were part of that first group, and we are just so proud to be here tonight, and we thank you. And I would like to say to you folks sitting in the front here, you students, many of my classmates and those that followed us went on to music education careers and music careers. I was among many who did not, but music has always been an avocation for me. And I have always been so pleased, so proud, and so humbled to be asked to sing at weddings, to add joy to that ceremony, and more importantly, to sing at funerals, to comfort the mourning. There's so much that we as musicians can do and feel so good about. And the education all started here. And I would like to thank certainly Bonnie McKee, as we knew her, and Bonnie and I, for giving me the opportunity to sing in Roaring Twenties and be in the play and the folk group. I was the new kid. I only spent 1 year here. And I thought I was going to spend a miserable, lost senior year, but thanks largely to Bonnie, I had a wonderful year at JD, and I will always remember my time here. Thank you.
Our final inductee this evening is contributor Brenda Noose. The category of contributor for induction into the Jamesville-DeWitt Fine Arts Hall of Fame is awarded to those who donated their time or resources to fine arts students, staff, programs, or productions at any of the Jamesville-DeWitt schools. As an intrinsic part of the JD High School Music Department since the 1980s, Brenda Noose dedicated her time, talent, resources, and heart to every aspect of our music program. Since the unexpected passing of Brenda in February of 2020, we have spent much of our time trying to find our way without her. Brenda had her hand in everything. She played an integral part in every trip, ceremony, musical, showcase, and concert at Jamesville-DeWitt. She organized every aspect of these productions with the same impeccable attention to detail she brought to everything she touched. The Fine Arts Hall of Fame, including this ceremony itself, would not exist if it were not for her dedicated work in the shaping and planning of the inaugural celebration in the fall of 2019. Brenda was raised in Westfield, New Jersey, and settled in Syracuse after receiving a degree in education from SU. Soon after, she received a master's in reading education. She was employed by and retired from Jamesville-DeWitt Central School District. After retirement, Brenda was a much sought-after substitute teacher, and she took over the role of producer for all things related to the high school music department. Friend and coworker Bonnie Nye had these words to share. From the early 80s, Brenda was a phenomenal supporter of the JD Music Department's musicals and concerts. She helped students in every way, building and painting sets, making rehearsal schedules, finding props that the students needed, and writing programs. Always the quiet and intelligent backstage hard worker, she was a tremendous asset, contributing to the successes of so many performances. When the Roaring Twenties Show Choir represented New York and the Young Americans National Invitational in California, Brenda took care of all the financial arrangements and raised funds so we could fly, house, and feed our 30-plus students and chaperones in Pasadena. Till the time of her death, Brenda continued to be a fundamental part of our school's music department. She adored being involved in all the arts. Brenda was never interested in being the star on stage. Instead, she made things happen so that those who were on the stage could shine and soar. The high school musical productions that Brenda guided were exceptional and set the bar for other schools in the area. She made successful shows happen. But what made her really special was what motivated her to do so. Brenda was always driven by a pure purpose: her love for children, her love of theater, her pride in being a member of the JD community, her dedication as a teacher, and her hunger for excellence. Brenda was passionate about all things theater and paid particular attention to every detail. Her work gave the rest of us the ability to dream, believe, and achieve our goals. She did all of this behind the scenes, without ever taking a bow. From auditions and tickets to props and costumes, Brenda elevated every production to the highest level. Her love of theater and her experience in producing high-caliber shows made our high school performances look like they belonged on a Broadway stage and not in a high school auditorium. She was the definition of driven, as well as the purest example of selflessness. It was Brenda's drive, determination, loyalty, and support that paved the way for our successes. Brenda Noose's contributions to our department will far outlast her physical presence here and we will spend many more years trying to emulate all that she did. There will never be a more deserving recipient of contributor in the Fine Arts Hall of Fame. It is an honor and a privilege for me to stand here today to posthumously induct our friend Brenda Noose into the Jamesville-DeWitt Fine Arts Hall of Fame.
If Brenda were here, she would immediately deflect any praise heaped upon her to shift your focus off of her and onto others, because that was Brenda Noose, working harder than all of us put together to ensure our success. I've never known anyone like Brenda, and I know this audience is full of people who would say the same. Brenda worked hard regardless of the size of the paycheck because, as she often said, it's a blessing to give. If she were here, she could tell you all the roles that the others played, the talented students, the directors, the choreographers, the technical staff, and how great it was and how much she loved to be part of our team. And I can attest to the fact that every team that she was on, she was the heart of it. When I asked Brenda's sister, Sandy, if there was anything particular she wanted me to say when accepting this award on their behalf, in true Noose fashion, she sent me this text: "Be sincere, be brief, be seated, Franklin D. Roosevelt." So, I am sincerely grateful to have an opportunity to celebrate our friend, our colleague, and the most selfless, hardworking, loyal person I've ever known with this induction ceremony. I am sincere in saying that this audience is full of people who say several times a day, "I am so lost without her." To briefly say we miss her seems trite and unworthy of her, as there will never be enough time to express how hard it is to live without her. And because she would hate the fuss we are making over her, she'd want me to be seated. So, Bren, we love you. We miss you. I am so grateful for the time that we had with you, but it was not enough time. So without further ado, I ask Mr. Gasparini to close our ceremony, and we will follow it with a singing of our national anthem. Or sorry, our alma mater. Corral, I told you I wasn't going to do that, and I did it.
So as we close the ceremony, I want you to, first of all, give a hand to our wonderful opening pianist, Alessio Vega. Alessio, wonderful job. And to these beautiful, beautiful young men and women for the job they did in introducing everybody. I will take Beth's advice and be brief. I do want to say this: as I was listening to all of the introductions, my mind began to go to my time on the stage. And in 2004, Titanic, well, yes, I had the pleasure, first of all, I had the pleasure of serving as both Alex and Babs' principal, which is my great honor. And in 2004 Titanic, Alex, I think you did tech for that one. Yeah, Babs was in that show. Brenda, of course, produced. Brenda did everything, as Beth said. Ron, I think you directed the pit, of course. Victor, were you in that pit? Played in the pit there. And future Hall of Famer Beth Quackenbush, of course, directed. But I thought the through line, of course, was me, because I was in that show as well. So I quite expect, Paul, a call very, very soon about 2022. But yes, I did play Mr. Guggenheim. I did. That is somebody who cares about theater right there. Well done. Well done, Babs. That was awesome. That's right. I died too. And I think that was the highlight of the show for many people. But And I've told Beth this before, and for Ron and for Dan Blumenthal, my happiest place in the school is right here. I come down here anytime, and it just makes me feel good when the kids are performing, when they're sitting around, even when they're eating lunch. It's a wonderful place to be. I love the theater. I love this theater in particular. I want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to congratulate all of you for honoring JD, honoring the place we love and serve. Thank you and congratulations.
On the very back of your program are the words to the alma mater, once written by our music theory class at Jamesville-DeWitt High School. And I'm going to ask you to stand as my amazing chorale and my amazing chorus officers lead us. But help us, because I just taught this to them on Wednesday. Christian, can you give us a D? 1, 2, ready? And high on a hilltop stands our alma mater, strong and fearlessly we will cherish thee. For thy honor great and true. Hail to our colors, scarlet and white. Long may they stand for wisdom and right. We will pledge our faith to thee. Our alma mater, our alma mater, we will cherish thee. Thank you. Please join us in our auditorium lobby for some refreshments set up and decorated by the amazing Kim and Joe Hardy. Thank you. Good night. All right, you guys grab some food and go. Oh, I think I'm not crying.